leadership is just a series of uncomfortable conversations. I heard somebody say that one time, and the more and more I teach this stuff, the more and more I know that's true. As leaders, we need to run not away from conflict, not away from the difficulties, but towards it. And that isn't easy and that isn't natural. We're going to talk about why that is, why you need to do it, and how you can overcome it right here in today's episode.
Welcome to Leadership Mindset 2.0. Practical neuroscience and psychology to transform you from a tactical doer into a strategic leader. Here is your host, former social entrepreneur of the year and coach to some of the world's top executives, R. Michael Anderson.
I'm going to talk about something important today. And the reason I bring it up is because it's a really important concept to get your head around. And I realized how important it was because it came up in a group coaching session I had with the APAC leaders, Asia Pacific leaders I have in my Leadership Mindset Accelerator. Here's what I'm talking about. As leaders, we need to look for places of potential conflict and go towards them and address them. The thing is, a lot of us, me included, almost all of us, if not all of us, we don't like conflict. We don't like difficult conversations. We don't like calling people out. However, until we develop the tool and skill to do this, we are not going to be able to step into our leadership power because that's what our team needs. That's what people around us need. And there's such power in being the person that calls out the unsaid. This came up because somebody was talking about how when they were addressing their team, sometimes there would be eye rolls. And he asked me, he said, when this happens, what do I do? I'm like, you absolutely address it. Absolutely. Because if there is something going on with somebody, if somebody has something to say about maybe something you presented in your weekly or your monthly leadership team meeting, and there is a festering issue, do you know how it's going to get worse? Is if you don't say anything. But what you do is you address it head on. And in this case, if you're leading a meeting or you're speaking in a meeting and somebody gives really awkward body language, an eye roll, like a whatever that is, what you just simply say, and your energy is really important when you do this. You simply say, hey, it looks like you're not on board with this or you have something to say. What's on your mind? And then you give them a chance to bring it up. And then maybe you give them one or two more chances. Are you sure? Because this is the time to bring it up. Because I want to know what's on your mind. Because if somebody has something to say, they're either going to say it in that meeting or they're going to say it behind your back when you can't address it. And your job as a leader is to get all the issues on the table so that you can manage and address them. Because that's going to get rid of gossip. That's going to get rid of people talking behind people's back. And that is going to also give you, again, the ability to do something about it rather than just be reactionary and pick up the pieces. I had one lady work for a large pharmaceutical company and she was working in compliance at the time. And she said on calls or on meetings, people would say, for example, rude things. And if you know anything about compliance, that's when you have to do a lot of rules and regulations that often not fun for people to do because it adds more work. But it's really, really necessary. Otherwise, you can break laws, or in pharmaceutical cases, patients could die or there not be tracking, accountability, et cetera. And she would say people would be like, oh, this is stupid, or under their breath so their friends could hear it, but other people might not have just heard them say something. And then there'd be a couple snickers. And I'm like, well, call them out. Ask them what they said and to share what they said in front of the group. She's like, can I do that? Because it would once it would happen one time, then it would happen multiple times in the meeting. And so she said, okay, this really scares me, but I'll try it. Next time we talk, she's like, oh my gosh, that was awesome. I said, well, what happened? She's like, when that happened, and I coached her on this, it's when that happened. So she's talking about how they need to do this and this and this for compliance reasons. And somebody said a little bit like, oh, this is stupid, under their breath. And she said, oh, hold on, I thought I heard you say something. What did you say? And of course, the person was like, oh, I didn't say anything. Are you sure? Can you tell all of us? And he's like, never mind. Now, in this case, he was being a passive-aggressive bully. But you know what bullies and people being passive aggressive don't like is they don't like being called out in front of everybody. And she said this guy often gave her problems, but he never gave her a problem again. Because what bullies do is they prey on, I'm going to use the word, the weak. And when they know that they're cowards, and when they know there's not going to be any pushback, they'll keep pushing. But when there's accountability and transparency, then they'll step back. And she took a risk. She didn't know what would happen. He might have said, well, this is stupid out loud. But then she would say, well, it's not stupid because, another company, our competitor, got sued because they didn't do this and this and this. And these are the laws. So are you saying you don't want us to follow the laws and the rules? And so that gives you an opportunity to do that. But the thing is, so many leaders will run away from those conversations. And there's such power when you are the one to say, hey, you could even be in a meeting and bring something up and you could say, hey, it seems like the energy changed when I brought that up. Is there any questions about this? Anybody have any concerns? Because you might not have explained it right. There might be something else going on in a different part of the department that you don't know about. But until you get people talking about it and lay the issue on the table, then it's just going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And again, we are built to not want to do these things, but the more you can do these things, the better you're going to get at it. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this because often you may not know mentally, this may sound funny, but your body will tell you. So if you are, and this is why mindfulness is important, this is why slowing down is important, this is why awareness is the A in the ARC system. When you are in a meeting, a conversation, whatever, oftentimes you'll get a little twinge in your body. Chest is tightening, your neck will tingle, whatever that is. That's your intuition trying to talk to you. Because maybe your brain's engaged, your mind's engaged. Our bodies have been wired to give us information. We have not often been taught to listen to our bodies. One thing for you to think about is where in your body do you get your intuitive hits? Often in your stomach or your chest or your head or your neck or your shoulders. Something happens, there's a constricting, there's a burning, tells you something's wrong. And just the same, there'll be an excitement when things feel right. And a lot of people, if you talk about how your family was, a lot of people's families didn't appropriately handle issues. There would either be an avoidance of them or an explosion of them. We want to walk, the middle pillar, the middle path. We don't want to get angry. We don't want to shout, etc. And we don't want to avoid things. We want to calmly bring things up and talk about them. For me, I talk about, and again, you're going to hear one of my stories again, probably, because I feel like when I do these podcasts, I have the same 4 stories I tell over and over. But maybe you heard this one, maybe you didn't. When I was running my software companies, somebody would give me a lead. They're like, hey, call this CFO. They're a growing company. I heard they may need a software like yours. And I remember this happened once or twice, and I would look up the company. The company was way larger than our largest client. And I would have the opportunity to do a cold call, call them and say, hey, you don't know me, but maybe you need my software, etc. It would be an amazing opportunity. I would put them on my to-do list, and then it would be like a Thursday. And I'm like, nobody wants to get a cold call on a Thursday. I'm going to wait till tomorrow. Then, I don't want to call anybody on Friday. It's not a good day. Monday would come, I'd procrastinate again. Nobody wants to talk on a Monday. And then by the time Tuesday would come, I'd be like, I put it off so long. I might as well just not even call the person. I remember there's one lead in specific, I never called them, even though they were a fast-growing company. I even remember what the company's name was, and they ended up being really big. They could have been an amazing client for us. But that was me fearing rejection. Like, what if I called this CFO and they're like, who's your biggest client? And they're like, oh, you're too small for us. And I would get that rejection. So I ran away from the no. That's often what this procrastination is us running away from potential failure, potential looking stupid. But you know what, leader? That's our job. It's our job to take risks. That's why we're developing this type of resilience within you. Because look, hope is not a strategy. Somebody wrote a book with that title, and I don't know, it's in the book, but it's an awesome title. Hope is not a strategy. You are hoping things are going to work themselves out on their own. Yeah, 1 out of 10 times that does work. 9 out of 10 times it gets worse, and then you got to address a bigger problem. You know what I heard one time is the difference between somebody in the military and somebody in the civilian is a civilian person runs away from the sound of gunfire. A military person, or for example, a police officer, runs toward the sound of gunfire because it's their job to address that, to be the protection. And that's in a way what you are for your team. You need to run through it because you need to solve it. And when you initiate things like this, when you're the initiator, you have more control. You have more ability to address it, and you can take control of the situation, which really is what we need you to do. I mean, think about when you have weed in the garden. If you don't take the weed out, what's going to happen? There's going to be more weeds. So you need to get out down on your knees, get dirty, and rip it on out. That's what you need to do. Because the thing is, the avoidance destroys the very thing you're trying to protect. You are trying to protect your image, the relationship, your sense of being liked. But you know what? You know who people like? You know who people respect? You know who people have a great image of? The people that can handle conflict, the people that can call people out, the leaders that hold a high level of integrity and a high level of expectations and hold people accountable to that. So, dear leader, my challenge to you is, where in your life are you avoiding conflict? Where in your life do you need to take a risk? Where in your life are you like hoping and praying it gets better, but deep down, you know it's not? I want you to take action on that right now. I want you to go out there and I want you to set up the meeting, write the email, send the text, send the teams, whatever your next step is, and be the leader that walks towards the conflict. That's it for today's episode. If you as a leader are getting value out of Leadership Mindset 2.0, but you simply need to move faster, maybe you have some big challenges weighing on you right now, or you have some really big goals that you need to achieve, then you're a candidate for executive coaching. This is where you and I work one-on-one to give you the fastest route to success possible. If you're interested, go to rmichaelanderson.com/coaching, where you will find all about what this looks like. If you're a leader who's really committed to their growth and success, then this is for you.